Hello and welcome back to another Space Engineers mod showcase video. In today's video I thought we'd look at another weapons mod pack, and this one is called NorthWind Weapons, which feature 6 different railguns for you to blast your enemies with. We get 3 turrets and 3 static cannons just to shoot whatever you want, and they have varying degrees of power, costs and energy requirements. So what we're going to do is have a very quick look around each of these, get a good look at the models, then we're going to shoot and test them out, see how much damage they can do to different blocks, then I'm going to spawn in an enemy for them to shoot, then I'll go over the ammunition, and of course the build cost to finish it off, because I thought you might appreciate having the fun stuff towards the front. So we're going to start by looking at this thing over here, which is the large railgun turret, featuring 3 railguns which all move individually of each other when it's trying to align a shot, which is quite magnificent to watch, and it does have some moving parts on it. So as you can see here, we've got these little knobbly parts right there. Now these will move backwards and forwards when it fires. I'll show you that a bit later. So yes, we get 3 railguns that sit all the way over there, which come across onto the main body, which has a small vent down there. We've got some decorative ladders on the side, and we've got a fake little doorway for you to get in and out over there. As we come around to the back, we've got 4 air vents, because railguns should produce temperature when they fire, and of course a small control panel down there for you to access all the controls if you don't have a seat. We come up and above and around to here. We've got 2 cameras that sit like little ears. It is quite adorable to look at from a distance. It's like small bunny ears on the side, like it's a little bit sad. But yes, they are the fake cameras for when you control it. Then we come across to the medium railgun turret, which is this thing right here. We only have 2 slightly smaller railguns which do the exact same thing as a large one. They can move individually, and of course they have moving parts on them. As for the base itself, we go for a circular look instead of a square. We still have our small vents and ladders on the side, but we have these nifty little pipes that come from the top down to the middle like a small cooling solution. Our air vents are on the top this time instead of the back, and we can see how these turrets are going to move up and down from those little nozzly parts right there. Coming around to the very back, that's our little hatch to get in and out, and our control panel right there. Then we move across to the small railgun turret, which is very adorable, has a tiddly little railgun sitting on the front, and we have a tiny little body. This one fires much faster than the other 2 because it's much cheaper and has a faster recharge. We have again our vents on the side, our ladder, air vents there, then as we move around the back, once again a control panel, then the little thing where you can see it moving up and down. So they're the 3 turrets. Now we come across to our static cannons, which are, well, what you'd expect. It's one large static cannon for you to shove on the front of your ship and blast your enemies with. Yes, that is the railgun in all its glory, and its little hole at the front to fire out of. Then we come around to this side, all the way around to the back, and that is it. We have a small little window piece right there where we can go inside and check the textures. Very nicely done. Then we have a blank panel at the back, which I presume is for a little inventory slot like all the other 2, which seems to be missing on that. But anyway, coming across to these ones, these are a small block railgun. We have our access points on the back to put ammunition in, and they do have a slightly different design. So unlike the other railgun turrets, this one has a small grey flip on the front that's only half the size of the others. As for the rest of it, it's basically the same. Going on to the very tiddly one, we lose those grey little flip parts on the top and the bottom for a more exposed railgun look. It is very adorable when you look at it, when compared to the larger one over there. But that is them, that's what they look like, and that's what you get in the pack currently. They are still under development, so if you see something that's not quite right, or perhaps they're too powerful, too weak, drawing too much power, then do leave a comment on the workshop page, because the developer is after feedback. But what we're going to do now is test out how they fire. So I'm going to get into my character and fly up to this lovely little control station over here, and we're now going to shoot them. Let's just hide all them, bring the camera back over. Let's start off with the big boy over here. So pressing number 1 and hiding the HUD, we shoot a little beam. It's very quick, so it's easy to miss it. We then have a fairly long recharge time before it will fire again. Now this is slightly different when it's actually in combat. Because when you just select it to fire, like I am right now, it's only going to fire the central railgun. In actual combat, it's going to be firing all three on a little pattern, so it's much more rapid fire. Let me just switch that off. Then we can come across to the medium one. So firing this one, once again, we get a small little pew that comes out of one side. And there it goes on the opposite. You can probably see there, if I get a bit closer, the actual animation on it of how it retracts backwards when it fires. There we go. It's very neat. Then we come across to the smaller one right here, where we get an even smaller pew pew. There we go. So we get the little animation of the railgun pushing backwards, and it's much more rapid fire, but it is a hell of a lot weaker. Then we can come across to the static railguns, where we have our big boom. There we go, much more satisfying, and it does still pull back into the main body. Let's get a better look at that. There we go. Let's just switch that off. Then we come across to the medium one. We can fire it, and we go pew pew once again. And then of course the small one, guess what's going to happen? Yep, you guessed it. And there we are. Let's test out their damage values. If I just hop out of that and build a giant block wall made out of regular armored blocks. Let's go for light armored blocks. So here we go for the first of a few tests. This is a 1 block thick made out of light armored blocks. So I'm just going to fire the large one first. There we go. We went straight through that block, all the way through in fact. So if you've made out of light armored blocks, then these are going to tear right through you. For the medium turret, we have the exact same story. We just go straight through the light armored blocks. And then for the little tiddly turret, we once again go straight through. And that's going to be the same for the other ones, like that. So there we are, we went all the way through, dealing some minor damage to the blocks around it, but we did go straight through one of the blocks, like so. Oopsie, you should be turned off. And for this test, I've made a 5 block thick light armored block wall. So we're going to start off by going with the large turret. And there we go, let's come and take a look. We went all the way through those light armored blocks, just 5 stacks of them, and they're gone. As for the medium turret, let's fire that. One little shot. We did quite a nasty bit of damage there. We damaged quite a few more blocks, but we did not go all the way through. We went through about 3 layers of blocks, and then it stopped. As for the small turret, there we go. We only went through, once again, about 3 block layers. So the medium one did a bit more area damage, and the smaller one did a bit more concentrated, but it did not go all the way through the blocks. And as for the actual railgun turrets, let's start with the big one. All the way through, medium, and then that one. Let's take a look. And we have almost the same story. The smaller railgun only went through 2 blocks. The large one once again did more area, but went through 3 blocks. And the large one went all the way through all 5 blocks. For the next test, we're doing heavy armored blocks. Now this one I know is very different. So starting with the big cannon, we once again go all the way through the blocks. And starting with the medium cannons, let's go from this side. We also go through all the blocks. Coming from the small turret, we did not go through all the blocks, so we're now starting to see the limitations of the smaller block weapons. Coming across to the rail guns, let's just fire all of them at the same time. And there we go, we have the exact same story. The large and the medium ones go all the way through, and the smaller ones don't deal any damage to the block, or not enough to visually have damage done to it. But what if we were to shoot a 5-layer thick wall of heavy armored blocks? So once again, starting with the big railgun turret. There we go, we've now shot through it, but how much damage have we actually done? We've only gone through about 2 blocks. For the medium turret, we've gone through 1 block. For the small turret, we haven't done any damage. Let's fire that again. There we are, so it takes 2 shots to do 1 medium shot, it looks like. As for the actual static cannons themselves, the big one, there we go, that seemed to have done a lot more damage than the actual turret. I don't know whether it just got lucky, but I don't know. And there's the medium one, and there's the small one. So that is a bit of an outlier, so if I was to fire that one again, it should go all the way through. And there we are, that is the case. So if I was just to quickly hop out of there, because that is slightly odd, slightly different than what I had in my little test. Because there was a little bit of discrepancy between the large railgun cannon and the large railgun turret, I've just patched up the wall once again with 5 blocks layer thick, and I'm going to fire the large one once again. And there we go, we have gone through about 3 to 4 layers of those blocks. As for the large cannon, we seem to do a lot less damage. So if I was to leave that on and let it fire a second time, there we are, we don't go all the way through. So the static large railgun is stronger per shot than the large turret right here, which is slightly odd. So to end this video, I thought I'd show you how this thing would do against a smaller ship, and to also show off what I meant by the little railguns move individually of each other. So just coming over to here and firing that, there you go, they're all moving up and down by themselves, and they're absolutely blasting the Dex fighter into pieces. Oh, that poor little thing. Now they were meant to be shooting the big ship over there, but they don't seem to want to. And because that wasn't satisfying enough, I spawned in a much larger ship, removed all the weapons of it so it doesn't fire back, and there we go, we're just going to switch them all on and let them go nuts over it. So there's a large one firing, there's a small one firing. They are just angling themselves and trying to go for the most vulnerable areas. So there goes the large one, it's turned away for some unknown reason. And then the small one is now firing. I think they've ran into a small bit of power problem because these are exceptionally power hungry, but they are doing some nice damage to it. The small one seems to be doing most of the work, and the large one seems to be a little bit confused as to what it wants to do. Like I said, it has quite a slow firing rate, and it seems to do a lot of damage going almost all the way through these light armored blocks. When you turn off the turrets, if you didn't see there, they will go back to their standard position, which is fantastic. I hate how the regular rocket launchers just sort of stay wherever they stopped firing, so having them go all back to a forward-facing position makes it look very neat. But as for the actual costs of all these turrets, they can just continue and blast that. Let me just come out there, and we'll just go through them while watching them destroy it. So the 250mm railgun turret, which is the large one, is 950 steel plates, 40 computers, 60 superconductors, 25 motors, 60 large steel tubes, 100 metal grids, 80 construction components, and 1,100 more steel plates. So that is rather expensive, and it appears they have dealt with everything they deemed a threat on that ship and stopped firing. For the medium turret, it's basically half the cost, coming in at 550 steel plates, 20 computers, 20 superconductors, 30 motors, 20 large steel tubes, 50 metal grids, 80 construction components, and 500 more steel plates. And for the small one, we are much cheaper, being only 250 steel plates, 10 computers, 5 superconductors, 15 motors, 20 large steel tubes, 30 metal grids, 50 construction components, and 200 more steel plates. And for the static cannons over here, we have the large railgun, which is 150 steel plates, 4 computers, 20 superconductors, 6 motors, 25 large steel tubes, 30 metal grids, 8 construction components, and 50 steel plates, which is a hell of a lot cheaper than the large turret, perhaps even a little too cheap considering the cost of building 3 of these versus building 1 of them. Yes, you do lose the automated fire and have to manually aim it yourself, but it does seem very cheap in comparison. For the medium, we have 20 steel plates, 4 computers, 10 superconductors, 6 motors, 3 large steel tubes, 3 metal grids, 8 construction components, and 15 more steel plates. Even then, that turret is pretty damn powerful for such a cheap cost. And then we have the smallest one, which is pretty much free, being 15 steel plates, 4 computers, 5 superconductors, 6 motors, 2 large steel tubes, 3 metal grids, 8 construction components, and 10 more steel plates. So they are dirt cheap. Now for the final thing for this video is of course the ammunition, because you need to build them and put them inside. So what I want is a assembler, not a refinery. I need to plop that down and... oh yes, I had plane mode turned on. Yes, we come into here and we come into our productions, we find our ammunition, which should be somewhere around here. There it is. We have ammunition for each size of railgun. So they use uranium, nickel, and iron. Uranium, not too much of a problem once you're in space, once you're properly set up, but early on they are going to block you from using these weapons. Although thinking about it, they do use superconductors, so you won't be using these early on anyway. But yes, they are the cost for the medium, the large, and then the smaller ones. So they're not too bad really in terms of costs. but you do want to be careful about spamming them, so they will rinse through all your resources. And one final thing, of course, are the settings for the railguns. So they have a range which can go up to 5,000 meters for the large and the mediums, and the smaller ones can go up to 3,000, and then you have the charge damage per shot, depending on how much power you want to drain and how much damage you want to deal. We then have this little bit of information on the side, telling you your optimal DPS, your charging, your heat generated, and all that. But that is all subject to change, because this still is in development. But as for that, that is it for NorthWind's Weapons pack. They're bloody fantastic weapons, great design, great animations, great model and all that, and they're not too overpowered. They're pretty reasonable for what they do. So if you want to play around with them yourself, they'll be in the description below, and I'll be back with another showcase video some point soon. Bye bye.